Everyone. Namaste everyone. We shall start with small mandalam. Shuklambaradharam Vishnum Shashivaranam Chaturbhujam Prasanna Dhyayet Sarvavighna Prashantaye Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harih Om. Namaste everyone. So welcome to the last episode of our first Purana Katha series. So in today's session, we'll be exploring the Shiva Tattva and the various aspects of Bhagavan Shiva from Shiva Purana. So this series is hosted by Bhuwwaneshvari Foundation, as you know. We are a small center in Madhya Pradesh, blessed by our acharyas and Bhagavati. Our center is Center for Puranic and Shastric Studies. We have an offline center and some research work on Puranas is going here. So in today's session, we are blessed to have Shri Raghuram Sharma Acharya. Raghuram Sharma Acharya is a Vyakarana and a Vedanta expert, and he has been teaching various Shastras since last 8 years. He is also blessed by Shri Amrutananda Saraswati Swamiji, and he has learned different Shastras, Vedantas, and Vyakaranas from the renowned Acharyas in the country. So now let us start the session. Now over to you, Acharya. Namaste, everyone. Thank you, Aniruddha, for the small introduction. And thank you, Renuka ji, for hosting the meeting today. And thank you, everyone, for joining for this wonderful session. And let us begin with a small prayer, as is our tradition. Antaraya Timiropashantaye Shantapavanamachintya Vaibhavam Tam Naram Vapushi Kunjaram Mukhe Manmahe Kimapi Tundilam Mahaha Sharanam Karavani Sharmadam Te Charanam Vani Characharopajiviyam Karunamasrunaihi Katakshapataihi Kurumamamba Krutarthasarthavaham Vagartha Vivasampruptau Vagartha Pratipattaye Jagatah Pitarau Vande Parvati Parameshwarau. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Shri Ganapataye Namaha. We all know that there are 18 Puranas, and however, the number of Puranas actually varies, and we would like to. I'd like to explain a few things about Purana, which has already been told by the previous acharyas. I would like to reiterate some points here. Shivameva agra asi is one of the Vedic statements. The word Shivam means Purana. So the word it is as is defined by Vedavyasa Maharshi. So all the Puranas, like Vedas, they were all together as one single topic or single subject at the beginning of the Srishti. So even in the influence of Western scholars, we tend to define the Puranic age as 5,000 years or Indus Valley civilization or whatever, but that is not actually correct as is in the Puranas. Puranas, all the Puranas, the 18 Mahapuranas, 18 Upapuranas, and 18 Aupapuranas, together 54 Puranas, which have been divided by Vedavyasa Maharshi, were all together as one single Purana, which was called as Shivam. So the Vedic mantra, the Upanishad, which says Shivameva Eka Agra Asit, means that the Shivam, the Puranas were all together as one. So
Brahma eva smarta. As for the as is applied for the Vedas, Brahma, Chaturmukha Brahma is the smarta for the Puranas as well. Chaturmukha Brahma is the smarta for the Vedas. He is not the karta. We need to understand the difference between the smarta and karta here. If these Puranas or the Vedas were not written by Brahma, they were given to Brahma because of his tapas. The Puranas were also as one single subject and Vedas were also single subject. So in Skandopanishad, we find actually a mantra which says that Shivaya Vishnu Rupaya Shiva Rupaya Vishnave Shivasya Hridayam Vishnoho Vishnoscha Hridayagam Shivaha. Many scholars actually they tend to explain that Vedas itself define that there is no difference between Shiva and Vishnu. Actually, the differences between Shiva and Vishnu, the Shaivism and Vaishnavism, started very recently in Kali Yuga because of the effects of Kali Yuga. There were no Shaivas or Vaishnavas in the previous times. They were all, it was a different culture altogether. So let us not get into that aspect. But first, let us understand the word Shiva, what exactly is meant by Vedas. So in Skandopanishad, it is clearly said that Shivaya Vishnu Rupaya. So who is Shiva and who is Vishnu? This is one single question everyone has. So if we have to understand the word Shiva, we have to understand it through the lens of Vedas and not our colored lenses. So word Shiva as in is 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 the word for Puranas, and the word Vishnu is for the Vedas. So here the Skanda, but if we understand this way, then the concept explained by Skanda Purana or the Skandopanishad, sorry, Skandopanishad will be very clear that the heart of Shiv Puranas is the heart of Vedas, and whatever is taught in Vedas, that is the same in Puranas, and whatever is in Puranas, it's the same thing in Vedas. And even Vyasa Maharshi and Mahabharata says that Itihasa Puranabhyam Vedortham Upagruhita. So with the help of Puranas and Itihasas only, one can understand completely what exactly Vedas are trying to say. So without the help of Puranas, we cannot understand Vedas. How is this? How can we actually say this? So, for example, in Vedas there is one name called as Nilakantha. In Rudram, Sri Rudram, Nilakantha. So if Veda is saying as Nilakantha, there is no explanation for Shiva being called as Nilakantha in Vedas anywhere. If we have to understand how did Shiva get the name Nilakantha, we have to then refer Puranas, and there we get to the story of the churning of Samudra Mathanam, and there Shiva consumed the halahalam, and because of the consumption of halahala, he became Nilakantha. The halahalam was stopped in his throat, and with the effects of halahala, his throat became blue, so he is called as Nilakantha. So without the explanation of Puranas, without the explanation of the stories in Puranas, the Upakhyanas, Akhyanas, or the Upodghatas in Puranas, we'll never be able to understand what exactly Vedas are trying to say. So when we are in the topic today, when we are trying to understand what is Shiva Tattvam, so Shiva Tattvam means Purana Katha. So whenever we try to say Shiva, it means that Shiva means Purana. That is the reason in the list of 18 Puranas or the 18 Upapuranas or 18 Aupapuranas, there is no Purana named as Shiva Purana. However, we are blessed with the availability of the Purana named as Shiva Purana. So is that one? So is that really believable? I mean, do we have to take that as Pramanam, the Shiva Puranam, or was it written by someone very recent? No one actually can write Puranas, because if someone writes a Purana, if someone is writing a small poem, he would not stop himself from portraying that he is the author of that small poem. We've seen in the history. Even Kalidasa in his Raghuramsha, he said that I am writing this Purana, the Raghuramsha Kavya. If someone is writing something, they would actually say this is written by me. So coming to the point first I have raised, that when Puranas were all single entity, that was called as Shivam. So what Vedavyasa Maharshi did was that he divided them into 54. So, and 54, and his another work was Mahabharata. So, and after dividing the Purana, the Shivam into 54 parts, the one part was left was Shiv, it was named as Shiva Purana, and his other work Mahabharata. So together it's called 56 works of Vedavyasa. So the term in North India, which was very popular before Nana Patekar, was Ab Tak Chappan. But that actually became a very household name for encounters in Maharashtra because of the movie by Nana Patekar. Okay, but before Nana Patekar, this term was very popular in Hindi speaking areas, called as Ab Tak Chappan. So if someone is writing so many things, or if someone is trying to tell so many things, then they would say that his works are Ab Tak Chappan. So it means that he has understood all the Puranas with the Mahabharata and Shiva Purana as well. So that comes 56 works of Vedavyasa Maharshi. The way Vedavyasa Maharshi divided Vedas into 4 parts, when he divided them into 3 parts, the left was Atharva Veda. He actually did not say, okay, these are all the Atharva Veda parts. He separated Yajur Veda parts, which were explaining how to do a yagam, the advaryu part of the yagam, and he divided Rig Veda, which explained the hotru part of the yagam, and he divided Samavedas, which were the udgatru part of the yagam. So the Vedas were divided to make the yagas simple. So the performing was a yaga simple. He divided them into different Vedas, and the left part was called as Atharva Vedam. The names of these were there from the beginning itself. It was only they were all clubbed together, and in people before Vedavyasa Maharshi, they were all brilliant, and they used to learn and understand which part they have to understand. So there was no difficulty then. But later on, Vedavyasa Maharshi, with his foresight, saw that people in Kali Yuga will never be able to understand if these are all clubbed together. They will never know which part is Rig and which is Yajur, which is Sama, and which is Atharva. So he divided. The same way, Puranas were also divided. So when these Puranas were divided, these were all given as Upadesha to Romaharshana Maharshi, who was a disciple of Vedavyasa. So Romaharshana Maharshi then taught these Puranas to his son Suta Mahamuni. And Suta Mahamuni, when he arrived at Naimisharanyam at the Mahasatra Yaga performed by Shaunakadi Maharshis, these Shaunakadi Maharshis, they asked various questions, and to answer their questions, he started explaining things, and these Shaunakadi Maharshis, they actually made a note of all these things, because if any Purana, it starts with the question by Shaunaka Maharshis, and it starts with Suta Maharshi, and he says that, okay, this was explained to Romaharshana Maharshi, my father, by Vedavyasa in a particular Purana, so I'm trying to explain it here. So the structure of every Purana is same. Now, another question arises that in Matsya Purana, there is one statement that these Puranas, okay, there are only 18 Puranas considered. Upa and Aupa Puranas are not considered at all. So among these 18 Puranas, there are few Sattva Puranas, few Rajasa Puranas, and few Tamasa Puranas. So should we actually consider the Tamasa and Rajasa Puranas as Pramana? So in Tamasa Purana list, Kanda Puranam, Vayu Puranam, they all come, which the Puranas which explain the Shiva Tattva are considered as Tamasa Puranas. The Puranas which explain Brahma Tattva, or Brahma Tattva is not the it's only Chaturmukha Brahma Tattva, Srishtikarta Brahma Tattva. So those Puranas are called as Rajasika Puranas, and the other Puranas which explain the Leelas of Sri Mahavishnu are called as, or categorized as Sattva Puranas. And many people argue that only the Sattva Puranas have to be considered as Pramanam and not the other two sets. So It is not actually the intention of Vedavyasa Maharshi or the Matsya Purana itself. It is only to say that these were the Puranas um, remembered by Brahma when he was in these stages, when he was in the when there was prakopa, or the um, when the sattva guna was important, it was very important for Brahma. Then the sattva Puranas were remembered by him. When he was under the influence of Rajoguna, then the Rajasika Puranas were remembered by him. And when he was under the influence of Tamoguna, then the Tamasika Puranas were remembered by him. That means that it only says that the state of Chaturmukha Brahma, not the Puranas itself. We cannot say that these Puranas are Tamasika Puranas, these Puranas are Rajasika Puranas. Because if we have to understand one single concept, and we may have to go through all the Puranas to understand what is said in this matter in all the Puranas. Without without going through all the Puranas to search for a single subject, then we will never be able to understand one single story. For example, the story of Bali Chakravarti and Vamana is very well known to everyone. But in Srimad Bhagavatam, the story is skipped because it was only to explain the Leela avatars of Sri Mahavishnu. So Vamana, when the Vamana avatara was explained, then a few steps were skipped there because it was already said elsewhere. When Bali, he promised to give 3 feet land to Vamana. Vamana raised to the he raised infinitely, and then he occupied Swarga and Bhuloka with his 2 feet. And he asked, where should I keep my 3rd feet? Now, he was already the Shukracharya, when Vamana entered the Yagashala, he identified Vamana as Vishnu Avatar and stopped Bali Chakravarti by promising anything. And when Bali did not heed to his advice, Shukracharya actually entered into the Kamandalam, and then he lost his eye, and Shukracharya left that place. So there was no one to give advice to Bali Chakravarti. Our Puranas actually, or even Itihasas, if a king has to take a decision, he has to take decision. He cannot take a decision unanimously, any decision, which when he has to actually take the advice of the elderly person there. So when his Guru Shukracharya left the Yagashala, he did not have anyone to give advice. So the story then suddenly skips to Bali Chakravarti pleading Vamana to keep his 3rd feet on his head itself. Who gave this advice? So for this, then we have to search in Mudgala Purana. There is the same Upodghata which explains the Bali Chakravarti and Vamana Avatara there. But the Yajna part of Bali Chakravarti, or the importance of Bali Chakravarti, or how Shukracharya stopped, these are all the things skipped there. And the story directly enters that Bali Chakravarti prays Ganapati, and Ganapati comes in before him as Lambodara Ganapati, and Lambodara Ganapati advises him to pray in Vamana to keep his 3rd feet on his head. So without clubbing these 2 Puranas and these 2 incidents together, we'll never be able to understand what exactly happened there. The chronology of incidents, because if we take only Srimad Bhagavatam as Pramanam, then the chronology of incidents is always lost. So there is no continuance between one incident to another incident, or one scene to another scene. So then we have, so how do we know? Now, which Purana to refer for this particular incident? We need to have some kind of knowledge about the Puranas. So we need to understand that all the Puranas are single entity. Only then we will be able to understand the exact the intention of Puranas, which is the intention of Vedas. Shivaya Vishnu Rupaya Shiva Rupaya Vishnave Shivascha Hridayam Vishnoho Vishnoscha Hridayam Shivaha Yatha Shivamayam Vishnuhu Evam Vishnumayo Shivaha Tathantaran na pashyami tatha me swastirayi. Yathantaran na pashyami tatha me swastirayishi. So the Upanishad Vakyam here, now we can understand that we cannot differentiate between Puranas and Vedas. Many people say that, okay, we have Vedas, we'll only accept Vedas as Pramana. The problem is that most of the Vedic literature is now, we can say, we cannot say it is lost, because we as the Sanatana Dharma, followers of Sanatana Dharma, have to believe that either the Vedas were written by or given by Parameshwara himself, or the Vedas are embodiment of Parameshwara himself. So we cannot differentiate between Vedas and Parameshwara. If we are differentiating between Vedas and Parameshwara, then we are not followers of Sanatana. That is how blunt we can be. So if we consider ourselves as the followers of Sanatana Dharma, then we have to either believe that the Vedas were given to Brahma as the Uchvasa and Nishvasa of Sri Mahavishnu, or we have to believe that Vedas are the embodiment of Parameshwara, that there is no difference between Vedas and Parameshwara. Now, when people started believing that there are Vedas are only the Pramanas, then what is about the Puranas? So the Vedas are called as Vishnu and Puranas are called as Shiva. So now, the first topic I raised, yeah, I think it is understood by everyone. If anyone has questions, we'll keep these questions for the later part of our session. In many Puranas, it is also seen as in Vishnu Purana, it is said that Brahma Chaturmukha Brahma is portrayed as son of Sri Mahavishnu, and Rudra as son of Brahma, Chaturmukha Brahma. Again, when we come to Linga Purana, it says that Sri Mahavishnu and Brahma, they are actually embodiments of Shiva himself. There is no difference between Shiva or Vishnu or Brahma. They're all together one form. And if we go to Shiva Purana per se, then it says that Shiva is supreme, and Narayana and Brahma, or the avatars of, or the forms of, other forms of Shiva. We all will, if we go through all these statements from Puranas, then it leads to a confusion. Which of these statements are true? So which of these statements are true? These statements all are true, we have to say, because the Puranas, some Puranas are from this Kalpa. So we have to understand the time frame as in explained by Puranas itself. We have, for every day in our Sankalpam, we say Dvitiya Parardhe Shveta Varaha Kalpe Vaivasvata Manvantare. We have to understand that we are using the terminology as used by Puranas itself. The Kala, the definition of Kala is not, we have to believe that our civilization is billions of years old. We cannot say our civilization is only 5,000 years old. We have been filled with this trash that our civilization is only 5,000 years old. Many people who believe in Parameshwara, who believe in Yajnayagas, who believe in Puranas and everything, they are forced to say that our civilization is 5,000-year-old civilization, which is not true. Because the Western philosophy or Western historians, they have to fit the concept of history into 6,000 years, and they did not want us to have an upper hand over them, so they made us 5,000-year-old civilization. At least we must have increased the number. I've been studying the same 5,000-year-old civilization from the past 20 years. At least they can add 5,020-year-old civilization now. No, they are not doing that. Even after 1,000 years, this will be the same 5,000-year-old civilization. Because the number 5,000 has been imprinted in our minds, and we tend to disbelieve in our own history. And Puranas, when they are explaining the definition of time, and when they are explaining the time itself, it clearly explains that the length of the time, or the Puranic age, or the Srushti, the age of the Srushti is close to 4.3 billion years, which is exactly what the modern scientists are saying, how old our solar system is. So everyone asks for a scientific proof for everything. Recently, there was an incident in Tamil Nadu where someone said that the karma siddhanta, spoke about the karma siddhanta, and immediately was jailed. So we are in this kind of situation where we speak about our own traditions and our own culture, we might be put in jail next few years. So uh, first of all, to understand our Puranas or understand the Shiva Tattva, actually, we must believe that our civilization is not a 5,000-year-old civilization. Because based on Harappa and Mohenjo-daro excavations, they are saying that it's 5,000-year-old civilization. And what about the excavations in Kashi? These are all recorded excavations. What about the excavations in Rakhi Gadi? And Rakhi Gadi, the architecture and everything, the archaeological surveys and everything, they say that it's a 32,000-year-old civilization in Rakhi Gadi, which is very close to New Delhi, our nation's capital as well. In fact, the Indus Valley civilization, the Harappa and Mohenjo-daro are in Pakistan, and we cannot do more research on that. But what about the Rakhi Gadi? What about the Kashi excavations, which are preserved by Jiddu Krishnamurti Foundation in Varanasi? They say that there are more than 1 lakh year old buildings, which the foundations of buildings which were excavated from the old Kashi, and they have been preserved in JK Foundation in Kashi itself, on the banks of Ganga itself. So we either we have been blindfolded by these statements, and we don't want to believe our own tradition, or we are happy that we are a 5,000-year-old civilization. Because we can say that at least in 5,000 years old, when we were all explaining the Vedas and Puranas, the British were all still living in caves. That statement is also incorrect. Because when we look at our history itself, Lava, the son of Rama, he went westwards, and Kusha went towards eastwards to expand their kingdom. So there are traces of Lava in UK as well. So what I'm trying to explain here is that first, to understand Shiva Tattva, we need to understand what Purana is, and then I'm coming back to the first point I've raised. So we all have this question, who is great? So question here is not who is great or who is the supreme here. It's all one entity, one Parameshwara. Actually, there is no name or form for the Parameshwara, but for us to understand Vedas and Puranas, they try to explain in simpler terms by naming them. Because without naming something, I have a mouse in front of me. If I have to explain, actually, the definition of mouse is, in normal terms, mouse is something other, a living organism, which actually a type of a rodent. But when I have to explain about mouse, I use the term mouse because that's we need to have a name and a form for us to understand some things better. So the Shiva or Vishnu, say the Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, and other gods, they're all form of one single entity. If we understand that, and if we digest that, then everything will fall in place. It's not that we are saying that you have to believe in a dogma. I'm only setting boundaries. Here, Acharya Shankara says very clearly that Shrutimatas tarko anusandhiyatam vedo nityamadhiyatam taduditam karmasvanushthiyatam, and he also says that Shrutimatas tarko anusandhiyatam. You have to do the Veda Adhyana. Whoever is eligible for Veda Adhyana, they have to do the Veda Adhyana, and you have to again and again try to establish what Vedas are trying to explain within the boundaries of Veda. You have to set some boundaries. We cannot have a boundaryless discussion everywhere, and we cannot also have an argument based on logic of today. There are few things which are unexplainable or inexplainable. So because the physics concepts which we have read during our childhood have already evolved into many other things now. And only few of us are actually keeping a track of what is happening in the scientific world. Not everyone is having they do not have enough time to keep a track of what they have learned in school. In school, we have learned Big Bang theory is the reason for the origin of the universe. Later, it changed to oscillation theory, and then it changed to string theory, and they're trying to evolve many other theories. So, what we learned in our schools that Big Bang theory is the only theory that supports origin of universe. That has been proved incorrect later, but we have not updated ourselves. However, these physics concepts in their say not the original form. I mean, maybe they not the same words, but somehow or the other way, these concepts are already explained in our Puranas. For example, in Mudgala Purana, in the origin of universe, in Purana, the definition of Purana is that it has to explain this origin of universe in one or few adhyayas. So in Mudgala Purana, in few of the adhyayas, it supports the Big Bang theory there. And okay, in few other Puranas, Big Bang theory is not the origin of universe is propagated with a different theory there. So one thing we need to understand that if we have to understand Shiva Tattvam, Shiva means Purana Tattvam, that we need to go through all the Puranas and then search for the similar subjects in different Puranas and then come to a conclusion or write the chronology of all the events there and then try to understand one particular Upadhyaya. Without this, we will never be able to achieve the we'll never be able to achieve the Lakshya as intended by the Puranas. Again, what is the intention of Puranas? The intention of Veda Vyasa Maharshi to bless us with Puranas is that this life is for Paropakaram, Papaya Parapidanam, Punyaya, Paropakaraya Jivanam, Papaya Parapidanam. Punyaya, so for us to gain Punyam, we need to do Paropakara, and if we do Parapidanam, then we will have Papam. So the effects of Papam and Punyam are all explained in the Puranas. Then how to achieve Punyam, how to achieve Papam, how we achieve Papam, so how to remove that Papam. So this is the primary subject of Puranas. Paropakara, Paropakaram and Parapidanam. Parapakaram has to be done and Parapidanam should not be done. If we try to explain the essence of Puranas in one single sentence, then this is one statement that explains the Purana. This is the same thing as explained in Vedas. Sarve jana sukhino bhavantu, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. So even for the Vedas, it's the same thing. That everyone should be happy and everyone should be free from guilt. So how actually this all started? So, why Puranas, all the Puranas try to explain the origin of universe. So without explaining the origin of universe in Puranas, we cannot get to the concept of karma. We cannot get to the concept of Jiva. Who is Jiva? Who is Jiva and what is Lokam? These concepts, if we have to start explaining these things, then we have to start from the origin of universe. So origin of universe is explained in different ways in different Puranas. Then we can club all of them together and then we can discuss which of these is correct. So which of these is correct? So because Parameshwara, the Brahman, is omnipotent, maybe the Brahman tried different ways to origin the universe. In one kalpa, Brahman tried Big Bang theory, and in one kalpa oscillatory theory, and the another kalpa maybe string theory or any other theories. So if we think that way, then these all things become very simple. What makes these things complicated is that we have slowly started thinking that you have one life, you only live once. YOLO, there's a concept called of YOLO, which is very famous among which was famous among hippies. I'm sorry, I don't know whether I can use that term or not, but they call themselves hippies, so I don't mind calling them hippies as well. That they actually propagated this theory, that YOLO theory, which is called as you only live once. So do whatever you want in this life. However, that's not the case. Had we been living only once, and if we only been dying once, then there shouldn't have been so many differences in the whole world. There shouldn't have been any differences at all, and we wouldn't be having this conversation at all. Everyone would have been equally intelligent, equally healthy, equally unhealthy, equally unintelligent. But that's not the case. We know that. That's a real life experience, that we know everything is not equal. So if we are trying to achieve equality, we can only achieve equality philosophically, but not physically or physiologically. There is no physical or physiological equality. That cannot be achieved, never, ever, ever. We can only achieve philosophical equality, and these philosophical equalities can be attained with the help of Puranas. But first, we will start learning there are so many forms of Shiva, there are so many forms of Narayana, there are so many forms of Ganapati, so many forms of Shakti, so many forms of Aditya, so many forms of Brahma. And then we'll, end of that Purana, will again all converge. First, we'll start divulging, and then we'll all converge them to the same entity. And then that Purana helps us achieve the task of philosophical equality. So the Shiva Tattvam, the Purana Tattvam, is philosophical equality, which can only be achieved if we use the knowledge of all the Puranas to understand each concept. Hope everyone enjoyed this session, and I would like to end my speech here. Maybe I don't know whether the speech was boring or informative. We can get that with your feedback, and if we can have a quick 10-minute Q&A session, I'll be very happy to answer the questions.
See, Acharya, the session was going so well, and you were also asking few questions in between. Those were interesting. I started thinking, and if we have any questions, we can ask right now, participants. Do we have any questions right now?
Okay. So if none are having questions, it means that everything I said was going above, or it was very complex, or these were all the known things only covered in the session. So it was very simple. The session was, so no questions to be asked. Either way, I'm happy. And if someone has any questions, they can always forward those questions through Renukaji. I'll be very happy to answer the questions.
Yes. So we have a WhatsApp group. So anytime you have any question, you can post it on the group, and we will let the scholars know about it, and the answers will be getting the answers from them. So if we don't have any questions, then
Guruji, this is Nagaraj. Can you hear me? Renukaji,
Yes.
this is Nagaraj.
Yes.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute. One question I have is, I think you very well explained the various options that are given in Puranas and how people should interpret. What I am curious about, Guruji, is if I had to enable our children and kids and bring them clarity with the help of Puranas, what exactly, how things have evolved, and why our previous Big Bang theory to current string theory and other things are not working, and still it is evolving. And how can we help them with certain examples, some stories that we have in the Purana, which would be more apt to suggest what kind of um, Puranas and stories are there, or books that are referenceable, which will help them to read and understand better, especially for those people who are interested in physics and astrophysics area. That would be helpful.
Yeah. There's one book called as Purana Pariyalochanam, but that's in Sanskritam. If someone has a fair knowledge of Sanskritam, they can understand the book. There is no translation of that book available as of now. But if you could lay your hands on the book, then and if you are a Telugu speaker or a Kannada speaker, then you would be able to understand most of the language used in the book. It's very simple language. And
Yeah, the one I'm referencing, kids do understand Sanskrita as well as Kannada. So
if you can lay your hands on the book, which was book published by Chokamba Surabharati, the name of the book is Purana Pariyalochanam. It's Purana
Pariyavalocanam.
Pariyalochanam.
Okay.
So there are few things that have been explained in that book very well, and there are translations of Tantra Sara Sangraha, which explains mathematical concepts as explained in Puranas and Vedas, and also in Tantra. Again, don't get offended when I use the word Tantra. Tantra actually means Veda. So it's Mantra Shastra, Tantra Shastra, it's all one and the same. We don't have to get offended for using those words. So there is one book called as Tantra Sara Sangraha, which was written by Nilakantha Dikshitar, that explains the mathematical concepts used in our ancient times, and differential calculus and integral calculus and application of integral and differential calculus as used in Puranic times. That actually helps our next generation to understand that our Puranas are not just dogmas, but they are all scientific concepts. But what happened here is that it's a combination of both. There is bhakti as well as physical sciences. It's both together. We may have to use both. The story should never be the important factor when trying to understand the Purana. Either Purana tries to explain a physics concept or a mathematical concept or some concept, or it tries to explain a dharmic concept. Either we have to understand that the Purana, every adhyaya of Purana as an explanation for a dharmic concept or a physics or chemistry or mathematical concept. How can we explain our children? Then we have to change the way we look at Puranas.
Thank you, Guruji. That's really helpful.
Acharya, I think we have one more
very
question.
nice question actually, and a lot of information and a lot of new perspective for us to process it. So I think that's what our audience is up to.
Acharya, we also have one more question. So it is from Teji. So Teji is saying that yesterday we were told that as per Shiva tradition, Anugraha and Tirodhara were included to Srishti, Sthiti and Laya. My question is, what is the difference between Srishti and Anugraha?
Very good question. Here the reference to this is in Lalita Sahasranama as Panchakartruka. So here the Panchakartruka as explained by Bhaskaracharya is that Srishti, Sthiti, Laya, Tirodhana, not Tirodhara, it's Tirodhana and Anugraha. Srishti is the difference between Srishti and Anugraha is very simple. And the Srishti explains the creation of the tree, the plant, and animal kingdom, or the life as exactly. But there is something beyond the Anugraha is to create an environment for this Srishti to evolve. So, however, Anugraha is again Anugraha and Srishti together. They are always mostly clubbed together, and Laya and Tirodhana are always clubbed together. But in Shaiva tradition or in the Mantra Shastra and all, here for one of the nama for Lalita Devi is Panchakartruka. That means that she does all these 5 stages of Srishti. So the only difference is that to create an environment for Srishti is Anugraha, and Srishti actually is to create the plant and animal kingdom.
Ji Acharya. Do we have any more questions?
Right.
Oh,
I'm sorry for having to continue the session only for such a short time. I'm at Aniruddha's place, and there are so many other things going on here in Aniruddha's place. So, and I would like to thank Bhuwwaneshvari Foundation for giving me an opportunity to present my views about Puranas and Shiva Tattvam here. And I would like also to thank Renuka ji and Anirudh ji for hosting the session. And also thank you all participants for listening very patiently to whatever I have said.
Ji Acharya. So we have already told our participants that we are hosting Mutkal Puran at Anirudh ji's place, and you are there. So Acharya is also, Raghuram Acharya is also a very big inspiration for our vision and whatever we are doing. So please visit our website and know more about us. If you like to contribute in any way, you can always contact us. And with this session, this is our last Purana Katha session, but the WhatsApp group, we will continue to have it. It is not going to dissolve, and whatever new information we will be having it, we'll use that group as a mode of communication. And thank you so much, everyone. And thank you so much, Acharya. It was a really nice session. And thank you so much, all the participants, for participating and showing interest in things like this, which inspires us to do whatever we are doing it. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Namaste.
Hari Om, Punar Milamaha. We are ending the session now.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.